Thank you for joining us on Black Agenda Report. I'm Margaret Kimberly. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and read blackagendareport.com. Our guest is Akili Shakur. She's a revolutionary activist in Gary, Indiana, and the wife of political prisoner Shaka Shakur. Gary, Indiana was struck by an extreme storm 2 weeks ago on August 11th. But that city and other portions of Northwest Indiana have been without power for 2 weeks now. We are speaking on August 25th. This is obviously a hardship for schools, hospitals, businesses, private citizens, not being able to refrigerate food, do any of the things that we count on and assume we're going to have. And Akili Shakur will provide us with an update, and we'll talk about Indiana and how this happened. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm just exhausted. That's
Of
all.
course you are, and I want to tell folks you are in your car because you can't get power. So I really appreciate you joining me. My first question is: Did Gary residents have warning about this storm and about its severity?
You know what? We don't have an alarm system that goes off like a lot of cities do, the ringing or the binging for the whole city. So you'd have to be watching the news or word of mouth, and lots of people don't really watch news on their phones, TVs, computers. So kind of knew a storm was coming, but nobody knew what a Dreco was. If you don't say it's a tornado or it's a hurricane, it's like, oh, okay. And they say, be careful, winds of, 100 miles an hour, 99 miles an hour. So I don't think a lot of people really, understood that part of it. And the storm itself, I want to say it might have been 15, 20 minutes that it came through, but the damage that it did was what was so unbelievable because it's never happened in this area like that before.
Yeah, it was called I had never heard of this, a derecho,
Yeah.
a very severe weather system. And I first heard that folks were still without power a, last week. And I saw a Facebook post, and this person said something like, "Do you know Gary, Indiana still doesn't have power after a week?" Did not know anything about it. It did not get a lot of national news attention. It is now, after 2 weeks of suffering. Tell us about that, the fact that people outside of your area, were you aware that people outside of your area did not know about what was going on?
You know what? When you're in the middle of something like that, you're not worried about who knows what. You're in survival mode. You know, you are. I mean, I actually had 9 days of no utilities, and so we've got people as of today still with no utilities. So you're not really plugged in. Your TVs don't work. You don't have access to your computers. And when you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat, if you're on oxygen, you're looking to see how you're going to breathe. If you've got children, you're looking to see how you're going to feed them. All these things become primary, and you're not really worried about what the outside world is doing. You're worried about what's going on right in front of you, and where you're going to get these basic staple things to live. Now we heard that at some point people didn't know, but that wasn't on everybody's mind. Oh, who knows
Yeah.
about this? Where's my influencers? No, that is not what you do.
Yeah. So what I think what I meant was, obviously if you don't have power, you don't care. But it says something about Gary's importance, or rather the lack of importance nationally, that your city was just ignored.
We were used to being ignored. Okay. Gary is a 70% black city,
Mm-hmm.
And when it really made the news for being Gary was when we had the first black mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and when the Jackson Five came out. You know, past that, Gary is mostly ignored because it was a steel mill, steel
Mm-hmm.
town. So it's not like we're used to being like Chicago. Always something going on. At one time, they had a negative that came out back in the 90s of what they were calling Gary, when they had the big push for economically challenged people being pushed out of Chicago into Gary, and then there was violence amongst the citizens that were moving in, the ones that stayed there. But it's not like you walk around, thinking that hey, we're on the map and people are going to pay attention. Now, once we got into it, and the main thing that everybody was wondering, when are we going to get power? And when they left us off that list, that's when people start getting concerned because NIPSCO, the power carrier, had put out a list of who's going to get, who they're going to try and get their power back on to. And when they put the list out, Gary wasn't even on it. So yeah, we're the blackest city in Indiana, and Indiana is a red state. So we felt really slighted about that, um, in terms of the political aspect of it. You're going everywhere else talking about their term, and we don't. Our name is not even on the list. So that made a big ruckus, and that's when people start paying attention when they found out. Oh, and when they said somebody shot at the NIPSCO truck. You got to put the bad and the good out there all together. You know.
Well, I read that story too, that one of the shots were fired at one of the utility trucks, and that's given as an excuse
Right.
for the entire actually, and I understand it's
For
also
neglect.
outside of Gary as well. It's not just Gary that
No, it's Gary, it's Portage, it's parts of Hobart, um, East Chicago, it's a small little city, um, with a black and brown population mostly, and they're still going through it. The effects of the Dreco.
and tell us about your mayor, Eddie Melton. Do you feel he's provided the kind of leadership you need at this moment?
I'm going to try and be fair. He's a very personable person, like most politicians are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's his first time being mayor. He's only
Mm-hmm.
been mayor, what, about going on 3 years. He should be, yeah, going on 3 years. He, to my opinion, he could have done better. He could have done a lot better because when they first started talking about the after effects of it, all the mayors and all these other towns were talking about how NIPSCO themselves, are partially responsible for the effect that the storm had. And he was very slow to criticize NIPSCO because at one time he used to work for NIPSCO. He's got family members that work for NIPSCO. And, you know, I don't know what that means because you don't work for them no more. You work for the people
Yeah.
of the city. So when everybody else was saying, that NIPSCO, calling out the shortcomings of it, he wasn't saying anything until after the governor got wind, of it and decided he had to say something. Then he says, this is unacceptable. Before then, he was saying, well, they're doing the best they can, we're going to get through this, and never saying what actually should have been, because part of it is on the city, part of it is on NIPSCO, but everybody's passing the buck. The city passes it to NIPSCO, NIPSCO passes it to some other entity that should have been cutting back the foliage off the power lines. Um, so it's enough fault to go around. I can't honestly say I'm a scientist, or I'm into electronics, but I do know for a fact that these trees had not been trimmed from the power lines, and so when the trees are coming down, the branches have grown above and below the power line. So when it comes down, it pulls all that down in a straight line. You've got power lines just going, and you've got them all on the ground. There's water um, all around those lines and stuff, and these trees are like almost 100 years old. These are big trees. These are not any little, 10-year-old trees. These are huge trees, and they're falling everywhere. and the infrastructure of the city is older than Eddie, Mayor Melton. And so that had not been taken care of. And then back in May, I think it was in May, when NIPSCO had locked out their workers over a contract, I think they got rid of some of them. And so now, turn around, this happened. You don't have enough workers. So the money that you could have been paying the workers to be doing these things, keeping these things trimmed, letting the city know, the city get on their job, they do what they're supposed to do. You have to now take that money and you've got to bring in contractors from other places, which is good that you can bring the contractors in. But the problem is that's money out of our community because they don't stay in our community. That money is not staying in our community. It's going back to somebody else's community. So once again, we have a bleed. We have an economic bleed because the services that are being provided are not being provided by people that look like us.
Well, you said several interesting things I wanted to mention, and most people have heard of Gary because of Michael Jackson and his family, Janet Jackson of Jackson 5, all of them, and Mayor Hatcher was it the early 70s he was elected mayor. Yeah, we had a little glitch there as just telling folks that you're in your car and without the right equipment. But we know about Gary, the Michael Jackson and his family, Richard Hatcher, the first black mayor, very prominent in the early 70s. There was the national
68.
Okay. The National Black Independent Political Party Convention.
1972.
72. But as you point out, Gary is in a red state. And so you have a majority black city in a red state. But apparently being in a red state didn't help you any. You would think that Indiana, with a Republican governor, mostly Republican officials, would be able to get the resources to help you. But that's not the case. But that tells us something about politics and about how about politics. What are your thoughts about that?
It can be seen two ways. Red state. We're used to being what we call punished by being the blue and the red, so that we don't get all of the access to all the things that's offered to the rest of Indiana when they've got grants and things like that. It doesn't make it past, I want to say, Rensselaer in terms of being able to be eligible for it. So we're like the stepchildren. And a long time ago, there used to always be talk about making Gary part of Illinois because we're 34 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're used to that. We weren't really expecting, the rescue it would be probably if it was the red state, because we shouldn't forget that Southern Indiana, Muncie and Bloomington, they had the water damage. They had the flooding.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's their response time for them and what they're doing for them. But when it's politics, it's neither red nor blue. It's issues, because everybody promises everything when they're trying to get in the office. But people cut deals. Things don't go the way they're supposed to. There is no real transparency about how that works. People elect people because they think that they have the time to represent them. You don't be, micromanaging your mayors and your governors and all this. You expect for them to, have your best interests at heart. But people are human, and we know just because you expect it don't mean that it happens. And people have their own agendas. And so they can tell you all day long, I voted blue, but your actions speak louder than words. And once you are in the public eye, you don't get a chance to cut deals behind closed doors. At least you shouldn't. You should be transparent for your constituents. So we've got a governor who's saying, well, okay, you've declared it a disaster. Nobody is saying, well, what does that mean in terms of the monetary value? Does the money go to the city and the city decide what it's going to do? Or is there something set up where the actual citizens can get the the benefits of, like, I'll call it dollars in hand. Like, we've done like four, almost 1, 2, 3. We did three, what is it, 3 tons of dry ice that we gave out on different days, right? We've serviced over 300 people with just dry ice, just to give shelf life to their food and their medicine, because people with diabetes, you have to put your medicine in a cool place, and it was hot after the storm. So people were suffering from that. People that did it's on oxygen tanks, you know, nowhere to get your oxygen, and the hospital was down. They eventually had opened the emergency room for certain things. So when you don't plan proper preparation, when you don't prepare for certain things, NIPSCO is a power company. It's the citizens, Black Lives Matter grassroots said, hey, look, we're going to go get 1,000 pounds of our dry ice. We're going to pass it out to the first, 100 people that come. You can get 10 pounds of ice. You're a power company. If you know this is devastating, why aren't you doing that? You know what it takes.
Well, but that raises another issue. But the issue with NIPSCO, your utility, it raises the question of essential services being in the hands of corporations. Supposedly, and this is a problem all over the country, these quote unquote public utilities that are private corporations that have an obligation to provide an essential service, in this case, electricity. But this is something clearly that needs to change, because this system, does not work when people need it most.
Well, we have a monopoly in this area. NIPSCO is the only service provider. And so I think it's ComEd in Illinois, but they've set up their system differently. A lot of their system is underground, so that when storms and things come through, they don't have to worry about the topping of their poles and all. We have a monopoly with NIPSCO. They just gone up on our bills earlier this year. They keep going up, and they give you providing your gas through the pipes, and all of this. You're steadily going up, and you're saying you need all this money, and yet if you check and see, they made $500 million profit.
Well, we're in a similar situation here in New York. We have a utility, Con Edison, but that's it. That's all you have is Con Edison. They do have a lot of utilities underground. That's helpful. But, they ask states for increases. They're always told yes. They're never told no. Right. And then in a situation like yours, after paying for these increases, you get, in your case, literally no service. We're talking on Tuesday, August 25th, as I said. And the last I heard, this was the day they committed to have the power back on for everyone. Is that still the case?
It's not even going to be the case. Even if they've got 90% of the electrical circuits up, because now there's a problem. If you stay in a house with this little thing called like a coupler on your house and it was damaged, then you have to have that replaced, and you have to have an electrician put it on, and it has to be inspected by the city before NIPSCO can connect you back to the power line. Now the city they did say that they were going to provide that piece that's supposed to go on the house or the property for the electrician. So maybe that's like, I don't know, about $3,000, but then you've got to wait for an inspector to come and say it's been put on correctly. I had someone yesterday just broke down crying, saying, I don't know if I can take this anymore. Everybody's stuff is coming on around me, but mine is not coming on. So we still have an aftermath. We are like Katrina and every other place that's ever been hit by a storm. It gets to be a hot topic for a minute, but the aftermath still lingers, and we're still working on that, trying to get people back to being whole.
Yeah, and if since you have this, I'm going to end things here, but I hate to end it with your face not being seen.
Okay, well, we love the fact that you took the time to have us on. I don't know. My camera says it's on, but I guess you can't see me.
No, we can't see you. And that's Sorry about that. And I thank you for agreeing to talk to me under these difficult circumstances. And I wish you were on so I could end the interview properly. But thank you, Akili Shakur, for joining us on Black Agenda Report to talk about conditions in Gary after this storm. And I would like to have you back sometime.
Please let me know. We'll give you the aftermath and let you know how we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.